Montana, 1947, -40 degrees. While entire families huddle in coats inside their own homes, burning through cordwood just to survive at 40 degrees, one cabin glows warm at 63. Children play in cotton dresses. The father splits within shirt sleeves outside. Neighbors call it impossible. They called his design a tin coffin, a monument to fear. But when the coldest winter in decades hit, that ridiculous metal shell became the difference between survival and surrender. This is a story of how one desperate man's war surplus gamble revolutionized frontier heating forever. November 1947, Montana Territory. Earl Hutchkins, a 34-year-old former Army engineer, dragged something up the frozen trail to his homestead that made every man at the trading post stop and stare. A 20-foot Quonset hut. War surplus from a disbanded Army depot. Corrugated metal. Meant for storage. For machinery. For anything but wrapping around a log cabin like some bizarre second skin. But Hutchkins wasn't building a home inside that hut. He was building something no one in Flathead County had ever seen. A cabin inside a shield. The previous winter had taught him a brutal truth. His solid spruce log cabin, 12-inch logs, fieldstone foundation, steep pitch roof, was respectable by frontier standards. But respectability doesn't keep you warm at 4,000 feet when wind screams down from Glacier National Park. He'd burned through 4 cords of pine in January alone, fed the firebox every 3 hours, still woke to frost on the inside walls. His daughters, Ruth age 7 and Clara age 5, slept in wool coats. His wife Margaret stuffed rags along baseboards every evening, only to find them frozen stiff by morning. The cabin stayed around 45 degrees Fahrenheit on good days. I seen, too, the physics problem, 130 to 245. The problem wasn't construction. It was physics. Wind doesn't just chill air. It strips heat directly from walls through convective cooling. Every gust hitting those spruce logs pulled thermal energy straight out, faster than any firebox could replace it. And in the Flathead Valley, positioned like a funnel between mountain ranges, the wind never stopped. Hutchkins knew this. He'd spent 2 years as a combat engineer in the Aleutian Islands, building Quonset barracks on permafrost. Those metal shells held 60 to 65 degrees with a single oil stove. Not because metal insulates. It doesn't. But because the enclosed shape and wind elimination created an environment where heat couldn't escape as fast as it was generated. That thought gnawed at him through spring 1947. When October came and the Army depot in Great Falls liquidated war surplus, he saw his chance. Quonset huts, 20 feet wide, 48 feet long, were selling for $75 each. He bought one, hauled it home in sections, and people stared. I seen 3. The Mockery, 2:45 to 4 o'clock. His plan was simple. Erect a Quonset hut over the existing cabin, leaving a 2-foot air gap on all sides. The hut would block wind before it touched the logs. The air gap would act as a buffer zone where it couldn't move freely or form heat-stripping convective currents. By late October, it stood, curved steel ribs arched over the cabin like a rib cage, bolted to a timber frame. From outside, it looked like a barn had eaten a house. The ridicule started before the first snow. Calvin Drecker, who ran the sawmill. "Oh, this looks like you're ashamed of your own house." A trapper named Grime called it a tin coffin for a coward's cabin. Loud enough for everyone to hear. Even Earl's own brother, William, a carpenter from Whitefish, drove down with something close to pity in his eyes. "You know what this looks like? It looks like you don't trust your own work. People are going to think you're either scared or incompetent. Maybe both." He paused. "I know you saw things in the Aleutians that worked, but this isn't the Aleutians. We've been building cabins here for 70 years. If this worked, someone would have tried it already." By late November, the Hutchkins place had become a spectacle. People rode past to see the metal barn house. Some laughed. Some felt genuine concern. But no one, not one person, thought Earl Hutchkins had solved anything. Then December came. The winter of 1947 to 48 is still recorded in Montana climatology archives as one of the most severe in the 20th century. December 8th, -18 degrees Fahrenheit overnight. December 12th, -31. December 18th, -38, with wind chills below -60. It didn't break. For 23 consecutive days, the thermometer never climbed above 0. Daytime highs near -10. Nights colder still. At the trading post, men talk about fuel in worried circles. Cordwood supplies meant to last until March were vanishing. Families burning half a cord per week just to stay above freezing. Most homes, despite fires running day and night, couldn't get above 40 degrees Fahrenheit inside. Frost formed on interior walls. Water buckets froze solid indoors. Livestock died. Chickens froze in coops despite lanterns and straw. Then people started noticing the Hutchkins place. First, the smoke, or lack of it. Most cabins pumped thick, constant plumes. The Hutchkins chimney showed a thin, steady trail. Like October, not deep freeze. Graham rode past on December 20th and saw Earl outside in shirt sleeves, splitting wood. Not panicking, just splitting. Casually. Drecker stopped by December 23rd with emergency cordwood. Margaret answered the door. Behind her, through the cabin opening, Drecker saw the girls at the table in cotton dresses. Not coats, not blankets. Dresses. Word spread faster than winter wind. By New Year's Day, men were making the trip just to see for themselves. They came skeptical. They left silent. County Extension Agent Pollard, the same man who'd warned the system would fail, arrived January 2nd with a calibrated thermometer. He stood in the cabin for 20 minutes watching his instrument. Outside temperature, -35 degrees Fahrenheit. Inside temperature, 64 degrees, a difference of 99 degrees. He wrote it in his notebook. Then he looked at Earl. I was wrong, he said simply. Completely wrong. But the numbers told an even more dramatic story. The Colby Ranch 2 miles south was burning nearly 2 cord per month and maintaining 42 degrees. The Hutchkins cabin, with similar square footage, was burning 3/4 of a cord per month, 62% less wood, while maintaining 63 degrees, a full 21 degrees warmer. The most striking comparison came from William Hutchkins' own cabin. Earl's brother tracked his own consumption through January. His well-built, professionally constructed cabin was burning 1.8 cord per month to maintain 48 degrees. When he visited Earl on January 10th, the comparison was undeniable. William's cabin, 1.8 cords, 48 degrees. Earl's cabin, 0.75 cords, 63 degrees. The difference wasn't incremental. It was categorical. William sat at Earl's table in shirt sleeves, watching his nieces play on the floor in light dresses, and did the math in his head. How long does a cabin hold heat after the fire goes out? Haven't let it go out, Earl said. But if I bank the coals at night and don't add wood, we wake up to 58 degrees 8 hours later. The adoption started quietly, the way most real innovation spread on the frontier. Not through formal announcements, but through practical men making practical decisions about survival. By early February, 2 cabins in the valley had implemented variations of the WWII concept. By spring, 7 families had purchased Army surplus Quonset huts to replicate Hutchkins' design. By summer, that number was 12. The county extension office began quietly recommending the concept. Agent Pollard published a brief technical note describing the system as experimentally validated under extreme conditions. By the winter of 1948 to 49, 19 cabins within a 50-mile radius had implemented some form of double-wall or external shell system. The fuel savings were consistent, 35 to 50% reduction in wood consumption, temperature improvements, 10 to 20 degrees in average conditions. But the real impact wasn't measured in degrees or cords of wood. It was measured in human dignity. Families who'd spent previous winters huddled in coats now lived in actual comfort. Children played indoors without their breath fogging the air. Winter stopped being a siege and became simply weather. Calvin Drecker, who'd mocked the system initially, put it most plainly. Earl didn't just build a warmer cabin. He gave people back their winters. By 1950, the double-wall principle had spread to Idaho, Wyoming, even part of Alaska. It never became universal, but for new construction in exposed, high-wind locations, it became common enough that it stopped being noteworthy. Earl Hutchkins never sought recognition. He simply continued living in his warm cabin, raising his daughters, and answering questions when people asked. But his name became attached to the concept. People would reference the Hutchkins method or that Quonset trick from Kalispell. The mockery had lasted 3 months. The validation would last generations. The Quonset shell still stands, 75 years after it proved everyone wrong. And somewhere in Montana tonight, on a January evening when wind howls and mercury drops, a family sits warm in a double-walled cabin they built based on a design that started as a joke and became standard. Drop a comment below. Where are you watching from, and what's the coldest winter you've ever faced? Hit that subscribe button for one proven frontier technique every week. And hit the like button if the story changed how you think about heating and survival. Because the wisest solutions often come from the people everyone thought were crazy. End.